Hey guys, I'm Chris.
Hey everybody, I'm Robert.
And we are the Film Flamers.
That's right. And in a month devoted to prestige or elevated horror, whatever you want to call it, right? We would be remiss to not bring you an episode about A24's upcoming, at the time of this podcast episode release, Bring Her Back.
That's right. So this is releasing at the end of the month, but we had an opportunity to see it early, and so we thought we would give it to you. Well, we thought we would give you our hot take early.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think the original plan was that we were going to watch Relic as a good pairing, a nice little whine pairing. Mm-hmm. Literal whining pairing with Babadook. But this was an opportunity we couldn't pass up, so we're doing this instead.
That's right. And I think that this movie and the conversation about it kind of go hand in hand with the conversations that we started in the Babadook, which was kind of, a kickoff to, that kind of prestige horror and grief horror, which has seen a resurgence, not a resurgence, but a continuation, in the last 10 years or so.
More of a surge. Yeah. I think it's been continuous, but I mean, we keep seeing Woman in the Yard just came out. I feel like Talk to Me had a little bit of an adjacency there with grief horror, specifically with the main character, kind of as a side piece, right? But Bring Her Back is very much a full pivot to the grief horror and a little bit of a step away from popcorn horror in a way.
Yeah.
It's more of a slow burn than Talk to Me was.
It is. And I think that this movie is far more dramatic than Talk to Me. There are some differences between that and these two filmmakers. Previous movie.
Danny and Michael Philippou.
That's right.
Yeah. If that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, I think so. There was a little intro by the directors to the movie, and I think they said Philippou.
Okay.
So, but as you guys recall, we really enjoyed the hell out of Talk to Me when we saw it a couple years ago at the Overlook Film Festival, and came back from that film festival sort of singing its praises and encouraging people to go see it when it was released, and it was subsequently released later that summer and made a lot of money.
Yeah.
So unsurprisingly, A24 has scooped up these two filmmakers and is releasing their follow-up.
Right. And I know that A24 picked up Talk to Me and distributed it, but I don't know if they actually produced this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure of that either. I'm not surprised that their branding is on it in some form or fashion. Right?
Okay, so actually A24 just handled distribution as usual. They had a pre-distribution deal with A24. Okay, but it looks like they were actually produced through Causeway Films.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah,
and I guess someone else is releasing it internationally. So
yeah.
But for those of you who haven't heard of this movie, we talked about it. We talked about its trailer on a Shooting the Flames. And this is a movie that's sort of about a visually impaired girl and her older stepbrother. Mm-hmm. Their father dies and they are sent to live with Sally Hawkins as a foster parent. And they uncover a terrifying ritual and horrors ensue.
Yes, and somehow this is a wetter, moister film than A Shape of Water, where we last saw Sally Hawkins lay her scene.
Also kind of grief horror, I guess. Lay her scene. But yeah, so not to give too much away, because this is just a hot take, and this movie technically hasn't come out yet, but this is a very buzzy movie right now. All the internet is abuzz. It was screened at other film festivals, not the Overlook, and lots of screenings are being released right now for people to go and see before its movie's released. So it's creating a lot of word of mouth. And, I've just seen so many news articles about this. Apparently it's been rated 18 plus in Norway, which is one of the hardest things to do. Just based on its material, they say that, people shouldn't be seeing this movie because it could be too graphic. It could be too grisly.
Well, it's specifically with children, right? And so this does not shy away from violence in children.
Yeah, certainly putting them in harm's way.
In certain situations, yeah. And so, it's a tough one. It's also, like we said, a slower burn. But it's definitely worth seeing, and it would not surprise me if this ended up in both of our top 10s for the year.
It's currently sitting in mine.
Yeah,
for
me
sure.
too. I think it's like number 9.
Mm-hmm. I think,
and it might go up if
I
I see it again.
Yeah.
I was just expecting a little bit more fun, I think.
Yeah.
And so if you go in actually like expecting a little bit more of a typical A24 slow burn, that's very like performance heavy from like Sally Hawkins, and of course these kids are great actors.
Oh, the acting in this was
we have a sight impaired actress who plays, of course, the sight impaired character, and she is excellent.
Yeah, her name's Sora Wong.
Mm-hmm.
And then her stepbrother is played by Billy Barratt, who apparently the directors really sought after to be in Talk to Me, and he was just unavailable.
Okay.
But after seeing Talk to Me, he kind of leapt at the chance to be in another one of their films, and so they were able to cast him in this one. And apparently Billy Barratt is not someone that I know as a name, but he's got quite the filmography.
Apparently he does, but he was quite good, and I'm excited to see him again because everyone in this film did great. I don't ever look forward to a Sally Hawkins performance personally. Yeah. I'm weird. She bothers me for some reason. Also, I hated Shape of Water. I'm also a very, very distinct minority there.
I didn't care for it either. I thought that she was good in it. I think that Sally Hawkins is a good actress.
She's a phenomenal actress.
And
really.
But it just so happens that most of the movies that she's in, I walk away from going like, oh, I didn't care for that.
Yeah, or she really disturbs me.
Yeah, it's something about her, maybe. I don't know. But she's good in this movie, like we said, but she's also quite disturbing and off-putting.
It is, and it's like, but at the same time, she's got this whole movie to kind of stretch out in. Mm-hmm. She's got a lot of different stuff that she can do in this movie, right? And she's set to do, but there's no like Toni Collette Oscar moment monologue in this movie for her, and I kind of wanted it.
Yeah, I did too. I mean, because I think that's the direction that horror is going. I mean, that's a conversation that we just had during the Babadook, right? Is that we felt like, the performance from that actress, Essie Davis, was so good and deserving of awards and things like that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like every year we're treated to like an actress performance in a horror film that we feel like deserves its praise, much like Toni Collette, And so I was kind of hoping to see Sally Hawkins like just come in and do something where I'd walk out of the theater going like, we'll just go ahead and give her the Oscar right now, It
was a really good sustained performance.
Yes.
I really believe that she was that character for sure. It's worth seeing it for the performances alone. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of shock value in this film, and it's going to create a lot of buzz. I mean, people are talking about this anyway because it's Talk to Me directors. Yep. But people are going to be, even if Talk to Me never happened, people would be talking about some scenes coming out of this movie being super cringy. Yeah. And not cringy like pathetic or,
like embarrassing,
but cringy like in it hurts my soul to watch the screen right now.
Yeah,
or to listen.
I'm really, really glad that we saw this movie in a theater, and I'm really glad that people showed up.
We could hear people moaning watching the screen.
I mean, I was moaning. There was a point where I like had to cover my eyes for a minute, and I was like, "Oh my god," and I rarely ever talk out loud in a theater setting, but it just like came out of me. I could not control it. And then the people who were sitting just further down from me were like audibly like gasping and moaning, and like people were reacting viscerally to this movie.
They were.
3 people that I counted walked out and did not come back.
Really?
Yeah. One person who was by themselves got up, and then a couple got up. And I'm, normally I notice when people are walking back to their seats, they did not come back to the theater.
Well, yeah, I wonder if they're kind of new parents or something too, because we've talked about that before, like your hormones change and everything. There's something psychological, and if you see something with kids, and I don't want to oversell like the kid drama, trauma, violence here. It's not like that, It's not like Saw for kids or anything. Jesus Christ. This is very specific things that could be an adult or anything else. It's not big because they're kids, is what I'm trying to say.
You are correct. And I feel like a lot of this is mostly like kids in peril kind of situation, and less like violence toward children,
It's also kind of a wet Grinch salad.
It's very much a wet Grinch salad. And like this is the other part of the conversation I wanted to have about this movie, is that it really affected me emotionally and mentally a lot more than a lot of movies that I've seen recently. Like, I've seen some wet Grinch salads in my time and over the last couple of years, but after a couple hours, I can sort of shake it off, but I went to bed in kind of a funk, and then I woke up in kind of a funk and still thinking about this movie. And I was just like, this movie was really fucking depressing.
Yeah.
Like I saw an article that called it the feel bad horror movie of 2025. And I was like, that's real fucking spot on. And that doesn't make it a bad movie.
Can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah. And so like, I think it's a good movie, but I also know like how taxing it was. And I was like, I don't know that I can watch this movie again, like right away.
Yeah, it's tough because there's a push and pull there, because it's like, it is tough to watch, tough to sit through a little bit. There is a slow burn. It really gets moving about half to 3/4 the way through, which is a long time for a horror movie. I don't think it was paced as well as it could have. No. So it lost some points there for me, but man, when it does get going, it gets going. And it's, there is a definite horror movie in half of this movie.
Oh, yeah. And the horror aspects of this pull no punches. No. I mean, it goes straight for your fucking gut.
And some of it is just the sound effects. Like,
yeah.
Man.
I mean, there's some body horror moments in this for sure. And it is simultaneously hard to watch because of like the visual elements, the sound elements, but also like thematically this is grief horror. Like this is like some sort of paramount of grief horror. And there were just a lot of things explored in this that I was just like, I don't know, maybe it was just too tough to handle, but I'm really curious to have other people watch this movie and see if they have a very similar emotional response to it.
Yeah, that's the poll, right? Which is, I want to watch other people. I want to watch my friends squirm when they watch this.
And that's the thing, is that I walked out of this movie and I was like, okay, can I recommend this to people? And, could I recommend it to everyone? I feel like there are some moments in this where I'm like, if you are still sort of processing your own grief, in some kind of way, this is not the movie for you to watch, and like, but I do know that horror fans will enjoy this, especially horror fans of prestige horror.
Now, I didn't go out feeling like I had kind of like dirtied my soul like I did when I came out of Hereditary.
I felt icky leaving this in ways that Hereditary didn't make me feel.
Really?
Yeah, okay. I felt bad, like on the inside.
See, to me, Hereditary hit a little bit more, I don't know, because there's so much more like personal, psychological drama going on. Mm-hmm. In this, everyone's kind of a victim of the situation they find themselves in, I feel like, a little bit.
Yeah.
Versus in Hereditary, you have that situation that's brewing in the family because of everything that's happened. You're really dealing with that trauma versus, like, again, in Hereditary, you have to live through that trauma with them. Right? Versus in this, the trauma has happened kind of before the movie starts.
Yeah.
In both cases, actually.
Exactly. So, I mean...
because there's trauma that's happened to the kids before, right? Their dad dies, and there's trauma that happened kind of around the dad before. And then there's trauma that's happened with their new foster mom, Sally Hawkins, and so everyone's dealing with their own thing. And then there's a specific alchemy that happens when they kind of combine, and start living together.
That's true. And I feel like it's once the trauma is exposed on both sides and the story starts to focus more on the trauma that's happening like presently, that's when the movie really gets going and becomes more of a horror movie. But
could you imagine if it was Kathy Bates?
Oh my God. Yes, I can actually, but mostly I'm just recasting the movie in my head no matter what.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I really want people to go see this movie for sure.
Yeah, and I think they will.
They will. I think it's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah,
for sure. But Chris and I were having a conversation moments ago off mic talking about like how this fits into the realm of grief horror, and he said that he saw a post on Reddit that was maybe kind of hinting at people wanting a stop to this. Like maybe there's some sort of exhaustion when it comes to the grief horror moment that we are all having right now.
A little bit of a burnout.
Yeah. And, after he said that, I was kind of thinking about it, and, they're right. They are right.
Well,
there's been a lot of it.
Yeah. They can still be good, but it's like, if it gets to too much of a tried and true formula where we start getting like these popcorn half tries, like I keep hearing The Woman in the Yard.
Yeah.
Is an example of them. Oh, this is the formula that we need, and then it just doesn't hit home, didn't land.
Right.
For whatever reason. And I have not seen that movie.
I haven't either.
I plan to, because I love shadow stuff. And I saw that in the second trailer. But anyway, yeah, people are just like, okay, if it's the first one that kind of ruins it for the whole subgenre, you know, people are going to start getting like that. What did you call it? Fatigue.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's easy to see. I mean, because we just talked about the Babadook and we talked about how this sort of like kicked off a moment, and both for prestige horror and grief horror. And there's been a lot of it since then. And we're talking more than a decade's worth of like grief horror movies. And at what point do we say, okay, filmmakers, like move on, you know? And you can't really say that to an artist, like stop processing your own grief. But when you look at things like Woman in the Yard, which is Blumhouse saying, hey, let's cash in on this a little bit. And then you have like this intro to this movie with the Philippous who look vibrant and fucking bouncy. And then they made this movie.
I know.
You know, I'm like, are you really processing your own grief, or are you just writing what you think is in vogue? And either way, it doesn't matter. Like, make the art you want to make, but eventually people are going to stop watching these movies and pay less attention.
Show me on this mummified hand where they hurt you.
This movie is different than Talk to Me, but not bad.
Yeah. And it's got like what, 90% right now on Rotten Tomatoes with like 50, 70 reviews or something like that.
I think it's like 52, 54 reviews, right? And this is well ahead of its release.
Yeah. They definitely intentionally did some pre-release stuff to try and generate buzz. This was all intentional, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
There's not any kind of review embargo, which is always a good sign. That means the A24 as a distributor is confident.
Yeah.
Right? And the filmmakers are confident. So I feel like this is going to find its place. Talk to Me was made for $4.5 million and made something like 80 million, or you know, which is insane. And I feel like this is going to be kind of similar, because if anything, this is probably made for less money.
I would imagine. There's far fewer special effects in this.
There's less cast. There's less locations. Like,
well, how much does Sally Hawkins cost? You know what I mean?
I don't know how much all that fucking makeup and, you know, there's a lot of makeup effects in this.
So critically, it's already being praised, but out of 5 stars, Chris, what did you give Bring Her Back?
I think I gave it a 4, 3.5, 4.
I think you gave it 3.5.
Yeah, I'm thinking of edging it to 4.
I gave it 4. I mean, we left the theater and I ran this through scans
because I was kind of bored the first third of this.
I was waiting for it to pick up.
Yeah, and that's kind of a cardinal sin. That means there's a pacing problem for me.
Yeah.
For me, subjective, right? Ratings are subjective. So, and also I was not a fan of the cinematography.
It was weird.
I felt like it was just kind of amateur. Yeah. For a lot of the film, but the sound, the acting, the performance, the story, all of that was excellent. And so it kind of rounded out into a 3.5 for me, but I'm going to watch it again.
You're a brave man.
Yeah. They kind of tried to do the witch thing, I think, where it's like all in camera lighting, you know, and it just didn't work because we don't have those like contemporary oil paintings of people inside their, you know, 2018 home, you know, like,
no,
come on.
So turn on a lamp. I ran it through scans, and scans told me 4.5 stars.
Oh, wow.
And I was just like, but do I think that though, you know? And then I started to think about my reaction to it, and I started to think about rewatchability and about, you know, recommendation. And I was just like, I think 4 stars is good for this. I think it's a good rating for this movie. I think that it's well made. It's well acted. Like we said, I think it's going to be popular. And I think that people will be talking about it for the rest of the year.
Yep. And right now, I think it's the top of my 3.5s. So it's still in my top 10. Right. There's a lot of 4 stars already this year, and we're not even halfway through.
I know, which kind of makes me like excited to see where our top 10s end up by the end of the year. You know what I mean? Because after the Overlook, there's always that big, like, you know, we have all these movies that we saw that we thought were good. And this year, 2025 especially, is turning out to be a banner year for horror, where everything that comes out is like 3.5 stars or above. And I think that there are a lot of things coming out that are going to be just as equally as high. So, yeah. Well, I think that just about wraps up this hot take on Bring Her Back. As always, we want to know what you think about this movie when you can see it. So head over to social media. Find us at The Film Flamers on Facebook, on Instagram, on Threads, on Blue Sky, all the places.
You can email us at tiredqueens@filmflamers.com.
That also wraps up all of our content on the main feed for this month, but we still have a bonus episode coming out for you. So head over to patreon.com/thefilmflamers. Get all of our bonus content, including this month's, which there was a poll for. And join the family.
That's right. Well, Robert?
Yes, Chris?
I think it's time for me to bring her back.
And I'm going to put my grief to bed.
This is so much better.
Sweet dreams. Yeah, I'm still not happy after watching that movie. There's a lot.
Oh, God, we talked about that movie, and like all I can hear is the fucking sounds of the teeth on the knife. Ugh.
Oh. No.
The pronging sound. Oh.